I've been the backbone of this corporation for 19 years. Nobody sees the backbone until it snaps. Then suddenly everyone's paralyzed, wondering why they can't move. People think IT infrastructure is just turning things off and on again, like we're all living in a sitcom where the punchline is, have you tried restarting it? It's not. It's architecture. It's understanding that every digital transaction in a company this size flows through pipes I personally welded together with code, late nights, and the kind of institutional knowledge you can't download from a GitHub repository. I'm Reagan Pierce. I'm 43. I drive a Subaru that smells like coffee and quiet resentment. Until 2 weeks ago, I was the reason this company's financial operations didn't collapse into a smoking crater. Before I explain how I basically performed emergency surgery on a billion-dollar corporation by walking away from the operating table, hit that subscribe button. Tap the bell. It tells YouTube that you're here for the chaos, and honestly, that's the most honest thing you'll do all day. Let me paint the picture. I'm a senior systems integration specialist. That's corporate speak for the person who makes incompatible software hold hands and play nice. I work in a basement office that gets exactly 47 minutes of sunlight per day when the loading dock door stays open. I like it down there. It's quiet. The servers hum at a frequency that drowns out the sound of the marketing department upstairs having another ideation session. That's really just brunch with PowerPoint. For nearly 2 decades, I've maintained what I call the circulatory system. It's a custom middleware platform I built that connects our prehistoric accounting software to modern banking APIs, payroll processors, and about 73 other mission-critical applications. The original vendor went bankrupt in 2011. Management decided upgrades were too expensive. If it's working, why change it? They said during budget meetings where they approved $500,000 for a lobby renovation nobody asked for. It wasn't working. It was dying. The only reason it functioned was because I had created a network of automated processes, patches, and fail-safes that ran continuously in the background. I called them the 3 guardians. Guardian 1, the validator. This script intercepted incoming data from 12 different departments and cleaned it before it hit the main database. Sales reps entering commission data with emojis. HR uploading spreadsheets where someone's salary was listed as competitive. Warehouse managers submitting overtime hours in military time when the system only understood standard format. The validator caught everything, corrected what it could, flagged what it couldn't, and prevented the database from choking on garbage data like a toddler trying to swallow a marble. Guardian 2, the translator. Our banking partner upgraded their security protocols 4 years ago. They demanded TLS 1.3 encryption. Our ancient system barely understood SSL 2.0. The company wouldn't approve the $250,000 upgrade. So I built a middleware translator that sat between the two systems, converting old signals into new language and back again. It was like being a simultaneous interpreter at the UN, except instead of diplomats, I was mediating between a bank that wanted security and software that thought Y2K was still a future problem. Guardian 3, the Sentinel. This was my masterpiece. Our database had a critical flaw where it would gradually consume memory until the entire server locked up. Every 10 days without fail, the system needed a specific sequence of cache-clearing commands or it would crash harder than a drunk driver hitting a brick wall. I automated that sequence. It ran every Sunday at 3 in the morning, silently, invisibly, keeping the whole operation alive. Nobody knew about the 3 guardians. Not really. IT management thought the system was just stable. Executives thought their investment in legacy software was paying off. They looked at me and saw wallpaper, a fixture that came with the building. You don't thank the air conditioning for keeping you cool, and you don't thank Reagan Pierce for preventing federal labor violations. I was content with invisibility. I had my rhythm. Dark roast coffee. Noise-canceling headphones playing lo-fi beats. The peaceful flow of data moving through channels I had carved myself. Then Elijah Parker arrived. Elijah was the new CFO. 34 years old. Jawline sharp enough to cut glass. An MBA from a school that costs more than most people's houses and teaches you that disruption is a personality trait. He didn't walk into rooms. He manifested in them like he'd teleported from a TED Talk about cryptocurrency and cold showers. He wore watches that cost more than my annual car payments. His cologne smelled like cedar wood and unchecked privilege. He'd been hired to streamline operations and maximize efficiency. That's executive code for, identify everyone over 40 and start calculating severance packages. The first time I met Elijah, he didn't shake my hand. He looked at my workstation setup like he'd discovered a Civil War museum in the basement. 3 monitors? His voice carried the tone of someone who'd just found mold behind the refrigerator. That seems excessive. Studies show multi-screen setups actually reduce productivity. I monitor live transaction flows on the left, I explained, keeping my voice level. System logs in the center. Database queries on the right. If I miss a transaction error, the distribution center in Ohio doesn't process shipments. If they don't process shipments, stores don't get inventory. If stores don't get inventory, we lose revenue. He smiled. Not a friendly smile. The smile of someone who's already made a decision and is just being polite before executing it. We're moving toward unified dashboards, he said, scrolling through his phone while talking to me. Single pane visibility. Everything in one place. It's about working smarter, not harder, Reagan. Working smarter. That was red flag number 1. When executives start talking about working smarter, they mean they've found a way to eliminate your position and call it innovation. He walked away, expensive shoes clicking on the concrete floor, probably texting his personal trainer about his macros. I watched him go and felt that familiar sensation in my gut. The feeling you get when you're standing on train tracks and you hear a whistle in the distance. Over the next 6 weeks, Elijah went on a rampage. He eliminated the entire business intelligence team because we can just use Tableau. Replaced the cafeteria coffee with a cheaper brand that tasted like despair filtered through cardboard. Started mandatory synergy workshops, where we sat in circles and threw foam balls at each other while discussing growth mindset. I attended one of those workshops. I sat there, foam ball in hand, listening to this man who had never processed a single accounts payable invoice in his life, and I understood exactly what was happening. He was looking at the org chart, identifying anyone whose salary had grown over the years through loyalty and cost of living increases, and marking them for removal. He saw budget line items. He saw numbers to be optimized. He didn't see the person who kept the financial nervous system functioning. The warning signs multiplied. My requests for system upgrades were denied. My meetings with department heads were canceled without explanation. I started getting copied on emails where I used to be the primary recipient. Then came the calendar invitation that landed in my inbox like a hand grenade. Transition planning session with Elijah Parker and Lydia from Human Resources. Transition planning. Corporate speak for, we're about to end your employment and we've already decided everything. I didn't panic. Panic is inefficient. Instead, I calmly backed up my personal documentation. Not company files. Those belonged to them. I backed up my personal reference guides, my system architecture maps, the troubleshooting flowcharts I'd created because the official documentation was worthless. I looked at the 3 guardians running silently in the background. All 3 operated through scheduled tasks tied to my user credentials. Automated processes that required my specific access permissions to execute. When they terminated my access, they wouldn't just lock me out. They'd kill the life support system keeping the patient alive. The meeting was scheduled for 3 o'clock on a Thursday. I stood up, straightened my blazer, and walked toward the conference room. I felt like a demolition expert walking away from a building they'd just rigged with explosives, watching someone else walk in with a lit match. The conference room smelled like whiteboard markers and expensive anxiety. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides. Everyone in the open office could watch the execution. Elijah sat at the head of the table in a chair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Lydia from HR clutched a manila folder like it contained nuclear launch codes. She gave me that practiced sympathetic expression they teach in HR certification courses. The expression that says, "I'm devastated to destroy your livelihood, but I have a PowerPoint about organizational restructuring that explains why this is necessary." "Reagan, thanks for coming," Elijah said, gesturing to the chair across from him. He didn't stand. Power move or just terrible manners bred from never being told no. I sat. Folded my hands. Didn't bring anything with me. No notebook. No laptop. Just my presence and my knowledge that this man had absolutely no idea what he was about to do. "We've been conducting a comprehensive operational audit," Elijah began, clasping his hands together. "Looking at redundancies, inefficiencies, areas where we can modernize." "Modernize," I repeated. My voice was flat as Kansas. Exactly. He nodded enthusiastically like I was finally getting it. We're migrating to a cloud-based enterprise resource planning platform next quarter. Integrated payroll, accounting, HR. Everything in one ecosystem. It's going to be intuitive, automated, self-managing. Self-managing, I said again. I was starting to enjoy this. Watching him describe a Ferrari to someone who knew he was actually buying a shell with no engine. The platform we've selected is from Velocity Systems, he continued. Industry-leading solution. Fortune 100 companies use it. We won't need manual system maintenance anymore. Velocity's platform is excellent for companies with standard operations, I said carefully. Does it handle our multi-state commission calculations that vary by municipality tax codes? He blinked. Hesitated. It handles commissions. We have sales representatives who work across state lines. Their commissions are taxed based on where the sale occurred, not where they live. I built custom logic that calculates that automatically. Velocity's out-of-the-box solution doesn't have that capability. You'll need to purchase the enterprise add-on module and configure it manually, which takes approximately 6 months and costs an additional $120,000. Elijah's jaw tightened. The implementation consultants assured us it's plug and play. Implementation consultants get paid whether it works or not, I replied. I don't. Lydia shifted uncomfortably. She opened the folder. Reagan, she said, voice going up half an octave. You've been a valued contributor here. But we're restructuring the IT operations model. We're moving toward a vendor-managed service approach. The position of systems integration specialist is being eliminated as redundant. There was the word that means we've decided you're disposable. So today is my last day, I said. Not a question. A statement. We've prepared a comprehensive severance package, Lydia said, sliding papers across the table. 3 weeks for every year of service. But it requires signing a non-disclosure agreement and completing a full knowledge transfer. Full knowledge transfer, I repeated. To whom? The Velocity implementation team will be handling the transition, Elijah said, checking his watch. An actual watch check. Like he had somewhere more important to be than ending someone's career. When do they start? I asked. They're scheduled to begin the migration in 8 weeks. And in the meantime? The current system continues operating until the switchover. I felt a cold smile forming somewhere deep in my chest. It didn't reach my face. My face remained perfectly neutral. You're firing the pilot mid-flight, I said quietly, and hoping the plane has autopilot. The plane is being upgraded to not need a pilot, Elijah replied with a smirk. That's the point of automation, Reagan. I stood up. Didn't argue. Didn't yell. Didn't give him the satisfaction of an emotional response he could later describe to justify his decision. Understood, I said. I'll collect my personal items. Elijah looked disappointed. He wanted resistance. Wanted tears or anger he could use to validate his choice. Wanted to tell his leadership coach about the difficult conversation he'd navigated with such grace. I wasn't going to give him theater. I was going to give him something far more educational. Security will escort you, Lydia added apologetically. Standard procedure for system access termination. 2 security guards waited outside. Frank and Dale. Good guys who'd worked here longer than I had. They wouldn't meet my eyes. It's fine, I told them. I know the way. I walked back to my desk. The office was silent. Nobody wanted to catch the contagion of unemployment. Heads stayed down. Keyboards clicked with performative busyness. I reached my workstation. My screens were already black. Access denied in white text. Perfect. I picked up my coffee mug. The one that said, I void warranties. I picked up my framed photo of my dog Hemingway. I picked up my Lucky Rock from Yellowstone. You'll need to leave the laptop and building access card, Frank said quietly. Don't need them, I replied. I didn't. Because the beautiful architecture of the system I'd built was designed to run autonomously. Unless I was there to prevent it from self-destructing. The 3 guardians operated through scheduled tasks under my user credentials. When they disabled my account, they didn't just revoke my access. They removed the authentication token that allowed those automated processes to run. They'd just given their company digital aids and were celebrating because they'd saved money on the doctor. I walked to the elevator. Frank and Dale flanked me like I was a criminal. I handed my access card to the front desk guard. "Good luck," I said to him. "Take care, Reagan," he replied softly. The automatic doors opened. Evening air hit my face. I walked to my Subaru, put my box of personal items in the passenger seat and sat there for a moment. I didn't cry. I started the engine. And I drove home feeling like I'd just lit a very long fuse. The payroll cycle would process in 5 days. The countdown had begun. The drive home was a blur of strip malls and suburban monotony. My brain felt like it was vibrating at a frequency slightly wrong for reality. 19 years of your life doesn't just end with a manila folder and an escort to the parking lot. I got home. My dog Hemingway, a rescue mutt with anxiety issues and a PhD in making me feel guilty, greeted me at the door. He knew something was wrong. Dogs always know. "Yeah, buddy," I told him, scratching behind his ears. "Mama got fired. But don't worry. We're going to be fine." I wasn't sure if I was lying to him or to myself. I put the box on my kitchen counter and stared at it. 19 years reduced to a mug, a photo, and a rock. I should have felt something. Rage. Grief. Fear. Instead I felt nothing. Numb. Like I was watching myself from outside my body. Then I made cookies. Chocolate chip. That's what I do when I want to strangle someone. I cream butter and sugar with prejudice. I fold in chocolate chips like I'm burying evidence. While the oven preheated, I opened my personal laptop. Not the work laptop they'd confiscated. My own machine that ran a lightweight Linux distribution and was configured for remote monitoring. Years ago, back when I still trusted my employers to be rational, I'd set up a simple health check script that pinged the company servers from an external IP address. It was a monitoring tool. A way to know if the system went down after hours so I could fix it before anyone noticed. I ran the command. The terminal displayed green text. Server response, 18 milliseconds. Status, operational. For now. Let me explain what Elijah Parker had actually done when he terminated my access. My user account wasn't just a login. Over 19 years, through a combination of institutional laziness and my own competence, my credentials had become integrated into the core operational framework. The 3 guardians all ran as scheduled tasks authenticated through my user profile. Guardian 1, the validator, was set to process incoming data every 6 hours. Without it, the next time someone in sales uploaded their commission spreadsheet with creative formatting, the import process would fail. The system would retry. Fail again. Lock the batch. Freeze the queue. Eventually, it would require a manual database rollback that nobody currently employed knew how to perform. Guardian 2, the translator, maintained the secure handshake between our legacy system and the bank's modern API. That handshake required a valid authentication token that was refreshed every 72 hours. When they disabled my account, they invalidated that token. In approximately 3 days, the next time the system attempted to communicate with the bank would reject the connection as unauthorized. Guardian 3, the Sentinel, was the time bomb. The memory leak issue wasn't theoretical, it was guaranteed. Every 10 days, the database consumed its available RAM and crashed. My automated maintenance script prevented that. It ran Sunday nights at 3 a.m. Today was Thursday. The next execution was in 3 days. By disabling my account, they'd removed the authentication that allowed the script to run, which meant the server would hit critical memory capacity sometime around next Wednesday. The system would slow to a crawl, then freeze completely, taking down payroll processing for 10,000 employees in the middle of a pay period. I pulled the cookies out of the oven. They smelled incredible. Warm. Sweet. Like victory baked at 350 degrees. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls. 2 from Lydia in HR. 1 from someone in IT whose name I didn't recognize. I didn't call back. I ate a cookie. It was perfect. Friday morning. First business day after my termination. I woke up to 7 missed calls and a dozen text messages. 1 was from Andrew, one of the remaining IT staff. Young guy. Smart. Overwhelmed. Reagan, hey. Something weird is happening with the data imports. Getting errors I've never seen. Do you have a minute to talk? I looked at that message for a long time. Andrew was a good kid. He didn't deserve to be collateral damage in Elijah's war on institutional knowledge. But if I helped Andrew, I'd be fixing Elijah's mistake. I'd be proving that the system couldn't function without me, which would validate keeping me on some emergency contractor basis until they could extract my knowledge, then eliminate me again. I typed back, "Sorry, Andrew. I don't have system access anymore. You should escalate to Elijah. He has a plan." I deleted 3 other messages without reading them. Made coffee. Took Hemingway for a walk. The world looked different when you weren't rushing to fix everyone else's problems. Saturday. Weekend before the payroll processing week. This is when the preliminary validations run. When the system checks that all the data is formatted correctly before executing the actual payment calculations. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was from someone named Stephanie in IT management. Her voice sounded strained, trying for casual but landing somewhere near panic. "Hi Reagan, it's Stephanie Torres from IT. Listen, I know you're no longer with the company, but we're experiencing some technical difficulties with the validation processes. Nothing major, just some error codes we haven't seen before. If you could give me a call back, that would be really helpful. Thanks. Nothing major. Error codes we haven't seen before. Translation: everything is on fire and we don't know where the extinguisher is." I didn't call back. I went to a farmer's market. Bought heirloom tomatoes. Had a conversation with a vendor about the differences between determinate and indeterminate varieties. It was the most peaceful I'd felt in months. Sunday. The day the Sentinel should have run its memory-clearing maintenance routine. I knew it wouldn't. My credentials were dead. The authentication would fail. The script would abort. I opened my monitoring terminal. Ran a different command this time, one that checked server memory utilization. Memory usage, 71%. Status, elevated. Normal operating range was 40 to 50%. At 71%, the server was already struggling. By Monday, it would be at 85%. By Tuesday, north of 95%. By Wednesday, the system would be trying to operate with essentially no available RAM. Everything would slow to a crawl. Then stop entirely. I closed the laptop. Poured a glass of wine. It was 2 p.m. I didn't care. Monday morning. Payday -4. The office would be starting to panic now. My phone rang. Caller ID showed the main office number. I silenced it. It rang again immediately. Then again. I checked my email. 17 new messages. The subject lines told a story. Urgent. System response time, validation errors, need help, legacy system issues, critical, database performance. The last one was from Elijah Parker himself. Subject, time-sensitive matter. Reagan, I understand there may be some residual system issues related to the transition. We'd like to bring you on as a temporary consultant to ensure a smooth handover. Please call my office at your earliest convenience. Best, Elijah Parker, CFO. At my earliest convenience. Like I was the receptionist at his dentist's office. I didn't respond. I took Hemingway to the dog park. Watched him chase tennis balls. Talked to another dog owner about the best flea prevention medications. Life felt remarkably good when you weren't responsible for preventing corporate disaster. Tuesday. Payday -3. The memory usage would be critical by now. Every database query taking longer. Every report running slower. The IT department would be watching the performance metrics, confused about why the system was deteriorating. My phone rang. It was Andrew again. I answered. Hey Andrew. Reagan, thank God. He sounded exhausted. The server is running at 96% memory usage. We've tried rebooting. We've tried clearing caches manually. Nothing's working. This keeps climbing. Do you know what's causing this? Sounds like the database memory leak, I said calmly. There's a maintenance routine that needs to run. Okay, where is it? I'll execute it manually. It's a scheduled task. Runs under service account credentials. Which service account? My user account, Andrew. Which Elijah had IT disable on Thursday. Silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing. So, what do we do? You need to restore my account credentials and reactivate the scheduled task. Or you need to manually execute the cache clearing sequence, which requires specific database commands in a precise order. I documented it in the System Architecture Manual. I don't have access to that manual. It's stored on the shared drive under System Documentation. That folder shows empty. Of course it did. When they deleted my account, they'd orphaned all the files I'd created. All my documentation, guides, and reference materials were now inaccessible because they were tied to my user profile. I can't help you, Andrew, I said gently. I don't have authorization to access company systems. If I logged in, I'd be violating the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. I could go to prison. But talk to Elijah. This is a management decision now. I hung up. I felt a small pang of guilt. Andrew was drowning. But I'd spent 19 years building lifeboats and they'd fired me for suggesting we might need them. Wednesday morning. Payday -2. The crisis point. I woke up to 43 missed calls. My voicemail was full. I cleared it without listening. One text message stood out. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Pierce, this is Charlotte Grayson, VP of Operations. We need to speak immediately regarding system restoration. This is urgent. Please call. Charlotte Grayson. I'd never met her, but I knew the name. She reported directly to the CEO. If she was getting involved, the situation had escalated past Elijah's pay grade. I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs. Toast. Orange juice. I took my time. At 10 a.m. my phone rang. The caller ID said Robert Hammond. Robert Hammond was the CEO. I'd seen him exactly twice in 19 years. Once at a company holiday party. Once in an elevator. He'd nodded at me both times like I was furniture. I answered. This is Reagan. Miss Pierce. His voice was gravelly worn. Robert Hammond. I apologize for the circumstances of this call. We have a situation. I'm aware, I said. Our payroll system has experienced a critical failure. We're unable to process this week's payments. 10,000 employees won't receive their direct deposits on Friday. This creates significant legal and operational issues. That sounds serious, I said. My voice was perfectly neutral. Our IT team tells me the system requires credentials tied to your former account. They say you built custom processes that integrated with your access permissions. That's correct. Miss Pierce, we need your help. We're prepared to hire you back as a consultant. We'll pay whatever rate you feel is appropriate. I appreciate that, Mr. Hammond. But I can't access your systems. I signed a non-disclosure agreement and my network access was terminated. If I log into company infrastructure without authorization, I'm committing a federal crime. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. What would you need? He asked finally. I'd need several things, Mr. Hammond. First, my termination needs to be formally reversed and classified as a management error. Second, I need a written contract. Not an offer letter, an actual legal contract, guaranteeing my position for a minimum of 3 years with specific performance requirements defined by me, not by HR. Third, I need Elijah Parker removed from any decision-making authority over IT operations. And fourth, I need a formal written apology from Mr. Parker, distributed company-wide, acknowledging that the system failure resulted from inadequate transition planning. More silence. I could hear papers rustling. Voices in the background. Those are significant demands. Mr. Hammond, 19 years ago, I built a system that processed billions of dollars in transactions. I maintained it, improved it, and kept it running when any rational person would have let it die. I was thanked by being escorted out by security because a 34-year-old with an MBA decided I represented a legacy mindset. Now you're asking me to save that same system from collapsing because nobody else understands how it works. These aren't demands. They're the cost of emergency surgery. I need to consult with our board. You have until 5 p.m. today. After that, you're looking at missing payroll, Department of Labor investigations, and a stock price drop that'll make your quarterly earnings call very uncomfortable. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the knowledge that I'd just bet my entire future on a single hand of poker. At 3 p.m. my phone buzzed. Email from Robert Hammond's executive assistant. Subject: Contract agreement, time sensitive. Attached was a PDF. I opened it. It was everything I'd asked for. 3-year contract. Salary increase of 40%. Direct reporting to the VP of Operations, bypassing Elijah entirely. And a separate document titled, Management Acknowledgement of System Failure. I read that one carefully. It was signed by Elijah Parker and Robert Hammond. It acknowledged that the payroll system failure resulted from inadequate assessment of technical dependencies during personnel restructuring. Corporate speak for, "We fired the wrong person and now we're screwed." The final paragraph indicated the acknowledgement would be distributed to all staff via internal memo. I signed the contract electronically. Send it back. Within 10 minutes my phone rang. Charlotte Grayson. Miss Pierce, your building access has been restored. We have a team waiting in the server room. How quickly can you get here? I looked at the clock. 3:47 p.m. Payroll processing needed to complete by midnight to ensure Friday morning direct deposits. I'll be there in 40 minutes, I said. I changed into jeans and a hoodie, grabbed my personal laptop, drove to the office. The parking lot looked normal. Nobody running around screaming. But I knew inside it was chaos. Contained, professional chaos, but chaos nonetheless. I walked through the front doors. The security guard, a different one, not Frank or Dale, looked at me with obvious relief. Miss Pierce, they're waiting for you downstairs. I took the elevator down. The doors opened to the basement level. Charlotte Grayson stood there. Mid-50s. Sharp suit. Eyes that had seen decades of corporate warfare. Reagan, she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. We shook. Her grip was firm. Show me what we're working with, I said. The server room was packed. Andrew was there along with 4 other IT staff I vaguely recognized. They all looked like they hadn't slept in days. Everyone out except Andrew, I said. Charlotte started to object, then nodded. You heard her. Give them space. The room cleared. Andrew looked at me with exhausted, grateful eyes. Okay, I said, sitting at the main console. Status report. Memory usage is at 98%. System response time is 300% slower than normal. The validation processes are failing. The bank interface is rejecting our authentication. And we have about 6 hours before the processing window closes. I cracked my knuckles. Pulled up the terminal. First, the memory leak. I typed the command sequence I'd memorized years ago. A series of cache-clearing operations that had to execute in specific order. The system responded slowly. Painfully slowly. But it responded. Memory clearing. 98%. 93%. 85%. 72%. Andrew, pull up the bank interface logs. He brought them up on the secondary monitor. As I suspected, the authentication token had expired. The system had been trying to connect using invalid credentials. I need to regenerate the authentication token, I said. This requires accessing the secure credential vault. Do I have permissions? Andrew checked. Yes. Charlotte, restored your full administrative access. I navigated to the vault. Generated a new token. Updated the configuration. Initiated a test connection. Connection successful. Authentication verified. We're back online with the bank, I said. Now the hard part. The validation processes had failed because the Guardian scripts weren't running. I needed to manually process 3 days' worth of data that should have been cleaned automatically. I pulled up the sales commission file. It was exactly as bad as I'd predicted. $signs. Text in numeric fields. Merge cells. Someone had literally written, urgent, please process SE in the amount column. This is going to take a while, I said. For the next 4 hours I manually cleaned data. Wrote temporary scripts. Bypassed corrupted processes. Rebuilt database indexes. It was like performing surgery on a patient while they were running a marathon. Andrew assisted where he could, but mostly he just watched and took notes. Bernie. At 11:47 p.m., I initiated the final payroll processing batch. 10%, 25%, 50%. The room was silent except for the hum of servers and the occasional beep of a completed operation. 75%, 90%. Andrew was literally holding his breath. 100%. Processing complete. Transmitting to bank. Transmission successful. I leaned back in the chair. My back popped. My neck ached. My eyes burned from staring at screens. We're done, I said. Payroll will hit accounts on schedule. Andrew let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Oh, thank God. Charlotte appeared in the doorway. She must have been waiting outside. Status. Complete, I said. Employees get paid Friday morning as scheduled. She nodded. What do we need to do to prevent this from happening again? I stood up. You need to actually upgrade the system like I've been recommending for 8 years. You need to migrate the Guardian scripts to proper service accounts instead of user credentials. And you need to hire at least 2 more people who understand legacy integration architecture. This system is 20 years old and held together with custom code and prayers. One person shouldn't be the single point of failure. Agreed. Draft a proposal. Budget is approved. Just like that. 8 years of budget denials and now suddenly money was available. Funny how that works when the alternative is federal investigation. I grabbed my laptop. I'll be in tomorrow at 10 a.m. to start documentation. Thank you, Reagan. I walked out. Took the elevator up. The office was empty except for a few security guards. I drove home. Got to my apartment at 1:30 a.m. Hemingway greeted me like I'd returned from war. I fed him. Made myself a sandwich. Sat on my couch in the dark. My phone buzzed. Email notification. Subject: company-wide announcement. I opened it. It was from Robert Hammond's office. The memo acknowledging that the system failure resulted from improper assessment of technical dependencies during personnel restructuring. A corporate apology wrapped in bureaucratic language. At the bottom, a separate note from Elijah Parker. To the team, I take full responsibility for the recent system disruption. I made decisions based on incomplete information and failed to properly assess critical technical infrastructure before implementing organizational changes. I'm committed to learning from this experience and ensuring better communication with all departments moving forward. It wasn't exactly, I'm sorry for being an arrogant idiot, but it was close enough. I put my phone down, closed my eyes, and for the first time in 2 weeks I slept. The next 3 months were a blur of documentation, training, and system modernization. I wrote manuals. I trained Andrew and 2 new hires. I migrated the Guardian scripts to proper service accounts that wouldn't disappear if someone got fired or quit. Elijah Parker and I had exactly 3 interactions. Each one was coldly professional. He never apologized directly to me. Just kept his distance and stayed out of IT decisions. Charlie.